can see, it is a blue sky spring day and just beautiful. We're excited to be visiting Ms. Pomeraine's class. We're going to head on in and see what they're doing.
We're here at Indian Paintbrush Elementary with Sarah Pomeraine. Excited to be here, 4th grade, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we're in Laramie, Wyoming. So we're going to just start out, and I want you to kind of give us an idea of your language arts teaching approach that you have.
Okay. Well, we started a new program, Wit and Wisdom, an ELA program, and so my language arts teaching approach it meshes nicely because it integrates reading and writing together. And I like to get kids in lots of different types of texts, and this program allows for a really nice range of nonfiction and fiction, and right now we're in the middle of studying Greek myths and how myths and stories, or why we tell myths and stories. And so we just came from doing a really long module of the American Revolution, and so we did a lot of first-hand and second-hand accounts of different aspects of the American Revolution. So it's nice to get kids into a whole range of reading, a whole range of writing. We've done we've written a lot of essays. We've done some narrative writing, and so just to be able to use what we read to do our writing is really supportive for kids who struggle. And so it's nice to be able to integrate both of those, which is really something that I think is important, is to be able to write to what you read and use your reading to help with your writing.
Great. And so thinking about what we're going to see today, how have you organized your classroom to support your approach?
So students sit at tables, and so it's a very collaborative approach to thinking and learning. And so I have a couple of different areas where the students can be. Mainly their desks is where we do a lot of their work, but sometimes I pull them back to the carpet so we're nice and close and where we can kind of have better conversations. I also teach from the smartboard, and sometimes I make them all squeeze in front of the smartboard so they're closer and they can see. So because I like that collaborative approach, I've got lots of groups of tables, groups of desks. We do a lot of partner work, and so they're supported not only in their thinking, but also if they struggle with something or if they need clarifying, if they have something they need to clarify, they are able to do that with a group that they're comfortable working with.
Great. Also, thinking about what we'll see today, how do you go about assessing your students?
So we run PLCs in our school, and so right now I'm on an ELA PLC because I only teach language arts for 4th grade. I'm working with our instructional facilitator and another partner teacher, and so what we do is we have essential standards for every quarter. So we've mapped it out. So we've chosen our essential standards from the Bank of Common Core Standards. Then we have our essentials, which is what kids need to know before they move on to the next grade. And within that, we've broken that into quarters that kind of maps along with our Wit and Wisdom curriculum. And so we have some SMART goals. Right now what we're doing is we are looking at student writing in their supporting paragraphs. And so what we have done is we've taken, in Wit and Wisdom it offers multiple assessments, and one of them was writing an opinion paper looking at their supporting paragraphs. And we are going to continue to look at supporting paragraphs because that is one of our essential standards within a writing standard. And so we take that and we analyze it, we look at them together and see, do they meet the criteria of having a kind of a transition, and do they have reasons for either their opinion or the evidence that they've provided as far as an explanatory piece. So we do a lot of work in our PLCs around assessment, but also just a lot of check-ins with students. I constantly monitor and walk around and check on where they're at, if they're struggling. So it is a lot of formative, but also we have that summative piece as well.
That collaborative piece with the PLC is really nice.
Yeah.
So with that, then do you also do intervention and enrichment to be able to differentiate the instruction once you find out with that data, what you find the needs of the kids to be.
Yeah, we do. So we have a half hour at the end of the day. We actually have an hour of kind of, it's not really flex time because the first half hour is our reading DI, or differentiated instruction time. And so each student, based on their reading skills and their reading levels, are put into a different group. And so, and in that, we work on those quarterly standards. And so they may be working on a different text, but they're still trying to meet those standards. And then the last half hour of the day, it's been really nice because we've been able to use that in our homerooms for whatever we need it for. So right now, because we are working on myths and storytelling, I'm able to do some storytelling and some writing with the kids that is outside of the program. So it doesn't necessarily need a standard at that time, but it's some time to practice these skills that we work on. But they are rooted in those essential standards each quarter.
And always the big question, especially when we have a student teacher and even beginning teachers, is thinking about classroom management. And so give us an idea of what your approach is to classroom management. And then the second part is, how do you set things up in your room, I guess?
Okay. So I rely a lot on the relationships I build with students, and I work really hard to allow them to trust me in order for me to be able to push them further. Fourth grade is really a lovely grade for me because I have a lot of sarcasm, but it comes from a place of love, and so they know that, and I really work hard for them to see that I'm kidding, or that they can joke with me, and that we have this kind of playful interaction. But then they do know the difference of now it is work time, and so I set that up by having as consistent of routines as possible. I have, in fourth grade, because we go to Teton Science School, we have adopted their kind of attention getting, which is the quiet coyote symbol or sign. So I put my hand up in a quiet coyote, and they really work hard trying to quiet down and do what they're supposed to do. So I also have sort of an incentive for that because I have been struggling with them just really being very social and active right now because it is spring and the weather's nicer, and they all turn into these kind of little jittery. Yes, and so they have the opportunity to earn 50 stones, and the way they do that is if everyone's quiet, we can put a stone in. If each group is working really hard, we can put a stone in for every group. But then once they earn 50, then they have a 30-minute reward of their choice within reason. So, but really, I feel like it comes down to the relationships that you build with students, and they know how to transition, they know how to move around the room, they know where their materials are. So between a relationship and really organizing things and that consistency of practicing, I think that really makes for a strong classroom management situation. It works for me anyway, most days.
Yeah, most days.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us about what we're going to see today.
Okay, so today we are working in poetry for their extra kind of half hour. And so one of their essential standards from a previous quarter that we didn't feel like they had gotten enough access to is using a reference material as needed for spelling. And so, or a reference material or a dictionary. And so this will be a poetry lesson based on a type of a list poem that uses synonyms to describe a really common word. And so I'm also going to use this lesson to strengthen W6, which is revision. And I think that's right, if I looked at that correctly. And thinking about word choice, because when we have to write such kind of structured essays, I really want them to use the most specific word they can. And so playing around with language is kind of what they will see themselves doing, but what I'm going to then do is when we come back to our writing, which will happen later today outside of this lesson, is that we will talk about, is this the strongest word you can use? Is this the best word? And so we're going to do I'm going to read aloud the poem that the mentor text comes from. I'll use that as the mentor text, and have them just listen to it and notice what they hear. And then I'm going to put the words out on a continuum of this is the word, it's describing big, you know, and so the more specific we get, so I was going to have them help me come up with kind of a continuum of the specificity of the word. And then we're going to brainstorm what is a boring word, or a word that can be, you know, spread out, and we can find multiple synonyms for that. And so then they'll work at their tables to come up with some words and toss them out and put them up on the board. And then I'll give them a chance to, I'll talk to them about the reason we're doing this is not just to play with words and use a thesaurus or a dictionary, but it is also to think about our revision when we start revising our writing and thinking about word choice. And then I'm going to today give them some time to just try it, give it a go. And then tomorrow I'm going to review what we did and remind them of the purpose of why we're doing that. And then I am going to give them some time to work, and then I'm going to gather them up to ask kind of some wrap-up questions and then have a chance for them to share their work. So that's what you'll see today.
Well, we're excited.
So,
Can't wait to meet
thank
the
you.
kids and get started in 4th grade.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna do what we normally would do, like our last half hour, just because of time-wise. So what did we do last week as far as during that last half hour? We had a short amount of time. What did we kind of focus on? We did. We've been writing poetry, right? Because not only is poetry fun to write, but it's also April, which is National Poetry Month. Although poetry should be studied all the time, right? Because it's so much fun. All right, I'm going to read a poem to you, and I just want you to be thinking about what you notice in this poem. So just listen. Okay, so it's called I'm Talking Big, and it's by Colin McNaughton. I'm talking big. I'm talking huge. I'm talking enormous, immense, tremendous. I'm talking hulking, towering, titanic, mountainous. I'm talking maximum, massive, stupendous, gigantic, monumental. I'm talking fantastic, fabulous, incredible, unbelievable, mammoth, vast. I'm talking astronomical, mighty, monstrous, universal, colossal, magnificent, galactical. I'm talking big. I want you to take a minute and just think about what you notice. And I want you to really quick talk at your tables. What did you notice about that poem?
Big stuff. Like what? We never know they use ever You never.
Okay, come back to the large group in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Shh. Wrap up your conversations, please. What did you notice? Zoe, what did you notice? So all the words were describing big. What else did you notice, Reagan?
I noticed that it was
So you're saying it was a bunch of synonyms for big. All right, one more. What did you notice? Oh, Griffin's not here today. Pearl, what did you notice?
No, I was just talking about that. But it's just visuals that it's really good.
Okay. Was there any rhythm to it? There was some repetition in there. So I'm going to put it up on the smartboard, and we're going to talk about the words that are used. So let me make sure it's lined up, because as you know, it's all crookedy. Okay. All right, so here it is. And you're right, this is a list of synonyms written in a way that is fun to read, but also fun to play around with words. So when we write poetry, we are playing with words, using specific word choice, making sure that we are, because poems are usually shorter, we want to use the most specific word choice that we can. And so this is all about the word big. So when we talk about synonyms, we can put them on what's called a continuum of words that are less specific and all the way to words that are more specific. So if we're thinking about the word big, it would be down here. Like, if you are talking about the word big, what could you be referring to? What could be something that is big? And I want a bunch of different things that you could think of that could be big. Okay, an elephant could be big. Okay, what else could be big? A rhinoceros could be big. So think beyond animals. What else?
The earth.
The earth could be big. Could I have like a big old diamond ring? That's big. That's not as big as an elephant. But you just described big, big ring, and the earth is big. So when we think about using word choice, we want to use a word that really describes something specific like big. So I want you to tell me where you think, and I'm going to have you come up and point out, so pick a word that you think you could put up here. We've got big, which is like it could describe things, but there's so many great words to describe the word big. So let's think about where we could go on this line. So I want a bunch of words on this line to get more and more and more specific. So Rowan, what do you think? What word do you want to point out, and then show me where it goes on this continuum? Well, you can't, because elephant is not on that list. Okay, do you have a word?
Magnificent.
Okay, magnificent. Now let's think about magnificent really quick. Is magnificent a synonym of big? You're right, but I asked for synonyms of big. So what is magnificent? What is magnificent doing? It's describing something that's big, right? So I want a synonym of big. Did you find one? Okay, gigantic. So come on up. Where do you think I should put? Come point out, where should I put gigantic? Oh, so you think it's pretty close to big. Okay. Here? All right. All right, let's see. Connor, what do you think?
Huge.
Okay, huge. Come show me where I should put huge.
I thought it would be just like right now.
Yeah, right? It's not like a super specific word. Abby, what are you thinking? Okay, come show me where you think enormous goes. We'll do about 3 or 4 more.
Can I change that?
No, it's up there, it's good. So enormous. Oops. Finish that S off. Max, what do you think? Galactical. What does that word even mean? Do you know a base word for the word galactical?
Galactic?
Which, you know what's funny is when I put this poem on my computer, it has a red line underneath it. It didn't recognize the word galactical, so he put it in the poem. Is it a word? We'll see. But do you see a base word that you recognize in there?
Galactic.
Galactic, which means what? Go even smaller. Galactic. What else do you notice about galactic? Just shout it out. Space. What's that space word? Galaxy. So if you think about the galaxy, you are thinking about the word galactical. Where should I put that? Come up and show us. Where should I put that? Galactical. Yeah, it's much, much more specific, right? Like where? Show me. Which way? Right over here. Okay. What do you think? Which one? Universal. Is universal a synonym of big? Like the universe? That one tricks me up a little bit. Where should I? Let's add it. Where should I put it?
Probably like
Okay, which one? Okay. It's kind of similar, isn't it? We're talking about the whole universe. Well, the galaxy. I don't know. I'm not a scientist of space. Yes. Okay, astronomical. You know of astronaut, Luca? So where should I put astronomical? That's another one of those galaxy type of words? Okay, here. Okay. All right, I'm going to take these two because you've already had a turn. Aiden, put your hand out. I'll come to you for something else. Chloe, what are you thinking of?
Monster.
Monstrous. Where should I put monstrous?
Maybe like.
Okay. So monstrous is not quite as big as, or not as big as enormous. Did I spell that right? Double check me. Monstrous. Yeah, looks pretty good. Okay, last one, Dylan. Towering. Where should I put towering? Okay, in here somewhere. Okay. So, as you can see, as we are talking about our words, some are kind of, they're less specific. But when you start talking about these universal, astronomical, galactical, those are huge, right? When you think of the word big, you're not thinking like, oh, there's a big balloon. You're thinking this is the whole universe we're talking about. And so what we are going to do today is we are going to try some of these out. But I want to tell you the reason we're doing this. Not only is it fun to play with words, and it's fun to use, what resource would we use for this? What resource should we use in the classroom to help us with this activity? What should we use? You could possibly use a dictionary, but a thesaurus would be a really great resource. Are there any other resources in this room that would help us with this particular writing task? I have a whole book, Banish Boring Words. You can use that. Rowan, what else? We're not going to use the internet, but yes, that would be fine. Yes?
Those paint.
Yeah, those paint cans, right? Those give us those words that we can use for this. All right. So, what are some words that you could choose from that would be similar to this one? This Mr. McNaughton used big. What are some words that we could use that would be words that are fine, but maybe words that we need to jazz up a little bit? Talk at your table. I want each table to come up with 1 or 2 words to add to our list. Talk at your table. No, not big, not the word big. So what I'm looking for is like that word big. What's another word like big that we can come up with a ton of synonyms for? No, not big. So what, do you have an idea? What's the opposite of big? Small. Keep going on. So that would be the word. Okay. Come back to the large group in 5. Oh, sorry. Give me some time. Okay. No, but see, so remember we talked about this could be a resource. Some of those words are like small or big. So words that you could come up with a whole list of synonyms for. So I want you to give me some ideas of what people call boring words.
Yeah, electronics.
Okay, come back to the large group, please. Quiet Coyote. So, I had more questions than I thought I would, so my directions were not as clear as I thought they were. What I wanted from you are those top paint can words. Those words that are overused, those words that might be the boring words. Words like small. Words like sad. Words like happy. Those words that we know there are synonyms of those words that are much more exciting than just the word small. So, I want you to try again with your group to see if you can find a boring, quote unquote boring or overused word that I could write up here to give us some ideas of our poem, what we could write our poems about. What are you guys thinking of? Yeah, I got sad. So and like 3, 2, 1. Come on. Okay. Table 1. What is your word that you came up with? Oh, go ahead, table 1. But calm. Okay. There are some synonyms we could use for calm. Table 2. Aiden, what? Ugly. Well, you don't. We're just brainstorming a list right now. Pearl.
Good.
Good. Table 4. Oh, mean. Okay. Table 5. Mad. So these are all just fine words, but I bet if I asked you to come up with a more specific word for these words, you could do it, right? Come from a couple of different resources. What? What? Eat? Oh, yes. All right. So I would like to share with you the one that I did. But first I want to see, does anybody have a guess as to what word I might have used?
Teacher.
So, no nouns, but I have used an adjective. And just think about what you know about me and the things I like.
School.
I do like all these things.
Your job.
I do like my dog.
Your kids.
I do like my children.
Your husband.
But yep, I like him too. Let me tell you what I did, and then you'll say, oh, I'm talking sweet.
Ow. What? That makes no sense.
Why would I choose that word? What do you know I love?
Andy?
I have a sweet, like, set of teeth, not a tooth, right? Okay, ready? So this is mine. So you could also use it, and you could use a describing word. You could use an action word like eat, a describing word. Okay, a lot of these are describing words. So, or adjectives. Ready for mine? And then you get to write yours, or you can start brainstorming. I'm talking sweet. I'm talking luscious. I'm talking candied, syrupy, sugar-coated, tempting. I'm talking honeyed, delicious, cloying, sugared. I'm talking desirable, irresistible, delectable, palatable, mouth-watering. I'm talking entrancing, eye-catching, enthralling, enticing, exquisite, confectionery. I'm talking tasteful, toothsome, superior, tasty, treasured, delightful, bonbon. I'm talking sweet. That's like a little chocolate. So you are going to choose a word or a bunch of words that you want to start with as your title. I'm talking, and you're going to use this structure of this poem. Uh-oh. Get back up on there. So you're going to use the structure of this poem to write your poem. So I'm going to give each of you this paper. You can write on the side, or you can write in your writer's notebook, whatever it is that you want to do. But you're going to use any tool you have to write your I'm talking poem. Yes? Ooh, that would be a fun one. I'd like to see you play around with that word. I think that would be an interesting one. Okay, so I expect you to be writing and talking about words, but mostly doing some writing. No, these are examples. Let me clarify. Quiet Coyote, please. I'd like to clarify. These are just examples. This is Mr. McNaughton's example. This is the author, whose name is Lynn Dorfman, and she, I got to sit by her at a conference. She's like a really famous author lady. And then mine. So just so you can see examples. Okay? Wolfosaurus. So you're going to have to brainstorm a bunch of words that go with it. So you're talking, right, Connor, what's your choice here? I would go ahead and start with if you don't have access,
and I'll write down the words, okay?
There's another place you can look. You want to take a notebook over there and you can copy down some of those words and see where they fit, where you feel like they fit best.
Maybe grab a thesaurus if you don't.
Beautiful would really work. It took me a long time to find all those words for sweet. I had to use the internet.
That means that is,
So here's my advice to you, is even if it's not your favorite word, you should get started. So choose one of those blue words that you have a couple of ideas already for, okay? And then get started on it. Should I help you?
I don't. Yeah, but I'm using that. But like.
Oh, so you're using that as
standing.
Oh yeah, not standing.
See, it's more like talking.
That's okay, we can work on it.
he's really
Okay,
good.
quiet coyote, please. So we will continue this work tomorrow. And so what I want you to do is I want you to fold your paper that I gave you in half, put it right in your writer's notebook where you are working, return your writer's notebooks where they belong, meet me back at your seats. That's a lot of directions. Fold up your paper, writer's notebook away, meet me back at your seats. With some of these overused words that we're replacing with some more interesting words. So that is what we did. I want you to think about why we did that. Why would this be something that I would teach you to do, or that I would want you to practice with? What do you
So
think?
you don't have, like, when you're writing, like normally, you don't have just boring words that don't stand out.
So you could use this in other writing. Is that what you're saying? So your words aren't boring and overused? Okay, what else?
So, like, you can have more descriptive words, and you can't say that word, but anyway, in your writing, so they know, like, how much, like, let's say, gigantic, like, they're talking, oh, wow, that's so huge, instead of just,
Yeah, so kind of the thinking when we put our words on the continuum and we talked about like big could describe a couple of different things, but astronomical described, I mean galaxy, right? Astronomy, that's big, okay? So when you are writing, you want to use the most specific words that you can to get your point across. So if you're writing narrative and you're describing your character, and you say something about them, you want to make sure you're using just the right word to get that image in your reader's mind. So this isn't, beyond being kind of a fun way to play around with words, it also has a bigger meaning of moving on into other writing, even in your nonfiction writing. If you're describing something, you want to use a very specific word to describe something. Like when we've talked about our Greek myths and talking about those, you could use very specific words to describe those Greek myths. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to give you some time to write, to continue to write on your poems. Then we're going to come back, kind of have a wrap-up discussion, and then we get to do some sharing, because I know you guys have worked really hard on these. So expectations are, you are writing. You can kind of chit-chat with a friend about word choice. Go write. So I'm wondering about maybe instead of maybe combining things that are fast with the words that are also synonyms of fast. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So have you used is fast up there?
money and
Okay, and you couldn't find it in the book either? Okay, so get a thesaurus. Let's see, or you can
Perfect.
Oh, good. Abby's done. So let's look at the thesaurus, and then once that's done, we'll see if there's another resource we could use if we need more.
talking languages, French, Spanish. I'm talking teachers, democracy. Democracy? What? You speak a lot in democracy.
Alright, let's hear it.
I'm
Yes. So yes, except for what I want you to do is I want you to use the structure for poems. So line, match up, line by line. So look at this line, what do you need to add? Like this line, what do you need to add? But yeah, I think that would be a fun one to play around with. So I'm going to give some direction on what is being shared when we come back. Yes.
Okay, I did too. I'm busy with this. I'm talking smelly, I'm talking detestable, I'm talking disgusting, fishy, foul, gross. I'm talking loathsome, malodorous, nasty, nauseating. I'm talking noxious, odious, offensive, biggish, aromatic. I'm talking putrid, rancid, rank.
So this is putrid.
Putrid, rancid, rank, raunchy, reeky, repellent. I'm talking repugnant, repulsive, sickening, stinky, taunted, unappealing, unpleasant. I'm talking smelly.
Gentlemen, this isn't a big
Where's yours, Abby?
So I can move you or you can make a choice to move yourself. But those are your two choices.
Okay,
Fourth graders, quiet coyote, please. Oh, that was almost the fastest we've ever done that. Nice job. We are going to gather back on the carpet. The beauty of writing is that you never have to be done. So even if you leave this, there is always time to come back. What I need you to have is I need you to have the poem that you've been working on. Okay, so we are going to turn our bodies. So we're going to start out as an audience, or as a sitting facing the chair, and then we're going to turn towards the podium so we can listen. So we talked a little bit just recently about how we could use this in other ways. But knowing that none of you have read that poem, I'm Talking Big, before, I want you to think about, sit down please, thank you, how you are going to think about words as you move forward. How are you going to be thinking about words as you move forward into other writing that you do? So I want to give you some think time. And I want you to share out how will you think about words maybe a little bit differently after doing this. Jackson, what do you think? Yeah, try to find some more interesting words.
I'm more interested in words like word. You use it very often, but you use different words for words.
So those words we use all the time, including the word word.
Yeah.
We could think of
I went
something
all the way
more
around.
interesting to use.
Is there a synonym for word?
Well, you'll have to wait.
Yeah, you have to wait till 9, Abby. You have to
Because
wait till
Rowan's done
9.
some work in there. Okay, so my hope is that not only was this kind of fun, but also that you think about words differently as you write them in the future. And I know we're going to do lots more writing in 4th grade as we come up. Okay, do I have anyone who would like to share? I want everyone to be able to share if they want to share in the time we have. So I want you to choose your best 2 lines, because we don't have time for everyone to share all. So I want you to choose your very best 2 lines.
Pick something from that list.
All right.
For us, so.
All right, so we'll pick a
Wait, I'm
class cheer. Who's our mayor? Okay, good. Pick our class cheer so we can cheer after you're
Okay,
done.
the cheer is cha-ching.
All right.
I'm talking fast.
You gotta use the microphone. I'm sorry to interrupt. You gotta use the microphone. So we can hear you.
I'm talking fast. I'm talking speedy. I'm talking race. I'm zippity zappity.
Cha-ching. Nice and slow. Use the microphone.
I'm talking BMX. I'm talking jumps, tricks, airtime. I'm talking sprocket.
Cha-ching.
What's sprocket?
A sprocket is the thing that the chain holds on to. It's where the pedal, like the little kite. I'm talking money. No. I'm talking currency, coins. I'm talking dinero, argent, and money.
Cha-ching.
I'm talking nonsense, unbelievable, horrible. And my title is I'm talking no good.
Cha-ching. Please.
I'm talking salty.
I'm talking mouth-watering, high-flavored, alkaline, snappy. I'm talking zesty, zippy, pungent, brackish.
Cha-ching!
I'm talking great. I'm talking wonderful, magnificent, amazing.
Cha-ching! All right, who's next?
I'm talking smelly. I'm talking noxious, odorous, offensive, piggish, aromatic. I'm talking repugnant, repulsive, sickening, stinky, tainted, and appealing, unpleasant.
Cha-ching!
I'm talking ugly. I'm talking beastly, abnormal, appalling. I'm talking hag-like, hideous, horrid.
Cha-ching!
I'm talking classy, cute, splendid, tantalizing, wonderful, graceful. I'm talking captivating, attractive, stunning, inviting, ravishing, resplendent.
Cha-ching! Does anyone else want to share?
Can I share my whole column?
Okay, so we have
3 minutes.
well, 3 minutes till recess, but I'll give you 2 minutes to sit next to someone who you have not shared your poem with, to trade poems and read each other's poems. So 2 minutes. And then we time for recess. 2 minutes. Grace, we're gonna find.
Well, we just. Where's your poem?
Do you have anybody to trade with? Dylan, did you trade already? Okay. Do you have somebody to trade with? Trade with Connor.
No.
Griffin, do you have somebody to trade with? Abby, is this not yours?
Yeah, I'm talking smart. I started
Spokes. Can we make another one?
Yes, you can make another one.
Look at Aiden.
All right, quiet coyote, please. Quiet coyote, please. All right, I want you to put your writer's notebooks away. And then before you go to recess, unless your name is up on the board, I want you to come and tell me your favorite word that you wrote today or yesterday. Your favorite word. Nope, you can't go outside until everything is ready to go. And then you shared your word. No, don't come tell me right now. You're not ready. You don't have your writer's notebook away. Nope, over here. I'm gonna be at the door to dismiss you. You need your coats? I said if you need your coats, grab them. Nope, I want to hear something good. Spectacular. Fortune. Stone. That is perturbingly.
Yeah.
Devour. Voyeur. Nike. Monstrous. Spectacular. Aromatic. Had 2 great days. Thanks for letting us come in. And it was a lot of fun to watch the kids play with words and thinking about the lesson that you had. Did it go as you had planned and kind of meet your lesson objectives? Yeah, I thought about this while I was teaching and last night between lessons, and it did go as planned. There were, of course, little quirky things that I forgot to do. I forgot to give a direction, or I forgot to the direction that I gave was confusing, and so all those things happen all the time when you are, you can plan as much as you want, but these little things come up that you don't account for, and so those are those on the spot, decisions that you have to make or clarifications you have to make, and so those were some little things that stood out that that I would, if I were to do it again, I would be sure that those were more clear.
And so thinking about next, after the kids shared out today, where will this go next, do you think?
Yeah, so I think that looking where they will go next is we have just kind of finished a writing piece that was an informational piece, and I'm going to give them the opportunity to go back and do you want to change any of the words that you use? Do you think it's specific enough? And so kind of give them the opportunity to do some revision with the writing that they've already completed. So.
And then when you think about some of the organizational things, you talked a little bit about some of the things that maybe you felt were unclear that you went back and fixed up. But then when you think about the organization, but also some management, any things that you want to point out?
Yeah, so it's always tricky to spend a length of time doing any sharing because not everyone is engaged during that time, which is why I broke it into do your 2 favorite lines. When you know, but you also are managing, like, making sure that they are, you know, they're projecting their voice, they're sharing their writing, but also that the other kids are engaged or, you know, they're not talking with each other. So you kind of have to have eyes on 2 places when you do any sort of sharing with writing. And because writing is so personal and people are so proud of it that you have to be cognizant of the fact that, you know, you have to manage this so that there's comfort in the presentation and that people feel comfortable presenting their work.
It was great to hear the kids' different ideas. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. And then just sitting at the tables with them and getting to hear their poems was wonderful.
Yeah.
So thinking about advice you have for other teachers, what to learn from your teaching, and also some of your management things.
I think to reiterate what I talked about yesterday is that idea of if you have built relationships and kids feel comfortable with you, then the amount of time you spend correcting behaviors lessens, and I mean immensely. It doesn't go away because there's always those kids that need different behavior management type of things. But I think that if you have your routines in place, if you have your procedures down, and your kids know what to expect. So for example, I asked them to sit as an audience, which they know there's a difference between sitting as an audience and meeting on the carpet. Because as an audience, I use that board to teach from. And so they have a lava line is what we call it. But if you have names for things and they're very specific to those areas, like I always say, meet on the the stripy carpet. If they're confused because it's all carpeted is what they tell me. So which carpet do you want us to? So having set zones, set phrases, things that are repeated over and over again really helps to take out some of those transitions, because transitions is where you can lose a lot of time. And so if those aren't solid, then that's where you'll lose instruction time, you'll lose your kids. A lot of misbehavior happens during that time because they don't know what to do. So if they know exactly what you mean, and those are really tight, then I think that will really help in your entire day. So
those are great things for your student teacher. It's over there.
Yeah.
Those are great things just to jot down, because it's not necessarily something that you will point out. But if you hear things like lava line, ask 3 before me, all of these things that maybe weren't scripted out for you to say, check these things out. Those are the parts and pieces that go into the management that make a successful classroom.
Yeah, and I think too, utilizing the students because I sometimes I feel like I have to do everything, but you can ask a student, get the podium out or get the stool out or, bring up, chairs or whatever it is. And, to be able to not only have that management yourself, but also know those students you can rely on to help you in those transition moments is nice too. And those are things that you don't think about until you're in the moment. It's like, oh, I did that. I had a student do, this, that, or the other. So those are all things to kind of think about as you manage a classroom, it takes time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for letting us be here.
Thank you.
And I was able to get a few pictures of the kids' poetry, but if there's additional pieces that come along the way, if you want to send those, that would be great. We'd love to add to our project.
Okay. And my hope is to have them turn these into final copies and then display them out in the hallway, because we have open house on the 19th, so then that way.
We'll send Alan back over.
There you go.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yes, thank you.